The Hobbit is a story that is a more innocent story, if you like. But a lot of the events of The Hobbit are actually setting up and establishing forces at work which are later going to be, are going to be big players in The Lord of the Rings. And so, it works on its own level. It has its own narrative, its own story, which is fantastic, and it also establishes a world that is later developed in The Lord of the Rings. The one thing with hobbits is that they are very stealthy. They can sneak around unseen, which is, I guess, is why we've never seen hobbits, because they're there but they choose not to show themselves. And that's exactly the quality that Gandalf the Wizard is looking for. And so he selects Bilbo Baggins, a hobbit that he's known since Bilbo was a young child. And as a child, Bilbo was very adventurous. He was very curious. He loved stories. Gandalf returns several years later and is kind of surprised to find that Bilbo is no longer that child anymore. He's become much more stuffy, much more conservative. But nonetheless, there's some quality in Bilbo that Gandalf thinks would be useful on this quest that he's about to undertake with the dwarves. And so you can't really say that Bilbo volunteers for the job of going on the quest. He sort of ends up on it despite his better instincts. The casting of Bilbo was absolutely essential because, if that character didn't work, the film wasn't going to work. I mean, it was the most important piece of casting. And we always wanted Martin Freeman. So there's a sort of a raucous quality to them that, is the way that they let off steam. And they enjoy doing that. They're equally good at enjoying letting off steam in the pub as they are fighting orcs in battle. One of the scary things about adapting The Hobbit is the fact there's 13 dwarves is really the bulk of your cast. And differentiating those characters was important. We poured through Tolkien's novel, The Hobbit, and with a few exceptions, he doesn't really spend the time to give each dwarf their own particular personality. Some of them do, but the majority of them don't. And yet in the movie, given the fact that this was a story that's spanning over 3 films, and each of these dwarves have a role to play in the story, it was very important to us that we were able to give them their own personalities. The character of Thorin, the leader of the dwarves, we wanted somebody who was going to have authority, and Richard Armitage is just, he is a most wonderfully quiet person in real life, and yet when he steps into the boots of Thorin Oakenshield, he totally takes control of that group. As part of the expanded Middle-earth universe, Tolkien came up with the idea of the White Council, which is, basically the elves and the wizards, if you like. Galadriel, Elrond, Saruman, Gandalf are part of the White Council, and he talks about that in the appendices. But they are like the Security Committee of the United Nations. They basically are there to protect Middle-earth, to keep their eye out for any sense of danger, for any evil that may be building or returning. The visual effects on The Hobbit have certainly advanced a lot in the 10 years since we did The Lord of the Rings. I always had a desire to want to do digital orcs and goblins back in the Lord of the Rings days, but it wasn't practical. We did Gollum as a digital character, and in a way that was groundbreaking at that time. But the last 10 years, things have advanced so quickly, and we have completely digital characters now all over the place.